What's up, y'all? Welcome to Instant Ramen this time. And tonight, Andres is with me, or AKA Foxtrot. Brother, what's going on, man?
What's up, OSG? Pretty good. Open Cup semis, man. I'm happy. Not much I can say other than to forget what happened last week.
Well, hey, we're on a high with that 4-1 win Open Cup, but that high is going to come down real quick because we have a doubleheader pretty much against LAFC coming up. One at home on Saturday and one on Tuesday in LAFC. So back to back, and man, everybody knows what LAFC is right now. So tonight we invited Erick from Voice of Black and Gold over tonight to talk to him and to learn a little bit more about LAFC that we may not have known just from watching, Apple TV. Erick, what's up, man? How you doing?
Great, great. How are you guys doing? Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always I can talk about the black and gold all day, so let's have at it.
Well, let's start with your hangover, man, because as we've talked off the air a little bit, you've kind of in a hangover right now, and we were talking after the CCL game against Leon, and I was actually rooting for y'all, of course, MLS over Mexican League or whatever they want to call their league, and I saw y'all put up some fight, but it's just Leon bunkered down and kept y'all out, man. So how are y'all feeling about the CCL? I know getting to the final is still a good thing, but how are y'all actually feeling?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the well wishes. If the tables were turned and it was Houston in the final in the CCL against Liga MX side, I would also be cheering for Houston. There's a couple teams in the league I wouldn't cheer for, but this show isn't about that. So, for us, the CCL, this is something, on the one hand, we lived a very charmed life at LAFC. In our short, just over 5-year history, the amount of success that we have is really unprecedented in the league. And I think if you step back and look at the history of expansion teams in sports, you realize that we are an outlier, not the normal thing, and I think a lot of us, I've been there since day one, season ticket holder since the first game. And a lot of us went in expecting, our team to have an opening much like Cincinnati had theirs, or pick most Austin had theirs. Most teams have really struggled the first year, but we did pretty well, even made the playoffs. Our second year, we had a record-setting year where we won the Supporter Shield, and we had our great CCL run. So we have had 2 CCL finals in the span of 4 years, although 3 competitions because they skipped it, I believe, in 2020 due to the pandemic. So, it's a very nice thing to have. At the same time, we've also lost 2 finals now. So those losses sting, all the losses sting. So, on the one hand, it was a rough one. And the other hand, you got to look at our club from the context of moving on from Bob Bradley, which is a very big deal, and going with Steve Cherundolo, who at the time had spent 1 year coaching our second team, which was the Las Vegas Lights, and accumulating all of 4 wins throughout one entire season. A lot of criticism about him coming in, but he basically came and won us a double last season, So that's our perspective. We've had a very charmed life. I know as Houston fans, you all have had some years in the wilderness with your squad. So, our perspective is, we kind of don't know what it's like to have a bad team. So we just want to win everything. So we're probably more disappointed than we should be at times.
I gotta feel that. Yeah, going to the final and then losing like that, man. It just hurts. But the tides are changing from the MLS into the Mexican League. So MLS is popping on up. Andres, you had something to add there?
No, yeah, I wanted to chime in and I just bring up the fact that MLS doesn't really do like 2 teams in one sports market, and obviously this is done with the Red Bulls and New York City FC first, and then MLS moves in and does it with LA. And I just said it yourself, like the success they've seen, like from the ground running, like it's been unprecedented, and the fact that it proves that in a big market, kind of like New York City and LA, just like 2 teams coexisting, or at least like not just like coexisting like with each other, but rather like 2 teams just like having their own thing going. Like it's just incredible for me because like it just shows like the growth of the sport in the country, and obviously not to mention these are like massive sports markets that they can find a success in the right position, and LAFC has found that clearly. So it's just good to see, honestly. And I don't know if in the future it's going to be like that, because like I don't think the other markets will be able to sustain sports teams like both cities. But yeah, it's just incredible to see, honestly.
Yeah, I think, for myself personally, just the growth of the game here is something that I really want to see. As far as myself, I'm actually like in 2018 when I went to my first LAFC game, I didn't know what an offside was in soccer. I'm a crossover fan, huge NFL fan. I never played soccer past the age of 10 years old in my life, like a lot of American kids growing up. Move over to baseball, played hockey, being from the Upper Midwest originally, etc. And so, since I went to that game, I just completely fell in love with the sport. And so just watching it, seeing it grow, and from the MLS fan perspective, and with Messi, we kind of have that where one, it's about our teams and winning, but at the other hand, it's like trying to get our sport from the fifth most popular sport up to the fourth or third or second. So I think, especially with our league, we have a lot of, we embrace the whole game and the culture of the whole game here. And what I really love about LAFC and a lot of the teams that have came after, because Houston's an older team, and you see as the newer teams come in, especially with the supporter culture, a lot of them seem to be very strong with that and very visible with it. And I think this is another way to grow the game here, is just moving with that supporter culture, because when you're with the supporters, it's just there's nothing like it in any other sport. And I say this as somebody who's seen every other major professional sport in this country. Just the supporter culture is what makes soccer special and different. And I know in the case of LAFC, if we didn't have the 32-52, it would be a completely different experience. When people first come to a game, and as a young team, lots of people are checking us out for the first time in Los Angeles, and they come away with what that north end of the stadium was doing. They were chanting the entire game, and they never stop, and they come away with that. And I think that's something us as soccer fans, that's kind of on our shoulders to help build and perpetuate that, to really bring the excitement to people to fall in love with the sport like we have.
Being a supporter is really fun, man. Both of us are supporters too, and I go to every home game as well, and try to make some road trips we can. But being a supporter is friggin' fun, and just you're having
The
a
best.
ball with all your friends, the pre games, the events that y'all attend together, the friggin' tifos that y'all keep pushing out left and friggin' right, bro. Come on, making us look bad over here doing one a year, and y'all feel like y'all doing one every game almost. I don't know how y'all do it, bro, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's just the fans love it. There's comments thrown out sometimes that like our fans get paid by the club to do this or this and that, and none of that is true. It is all just and the more fun it is, like the easier it is to build it and build it. I mean, if you look at Alajuelense, we had over 500 fans show up to Costa Rica for a match. When we played in Leon, we had well over 500 fans that showed up in Mexico to go to that match. And our supporters did a lot of charity work with an orphanage there that we visited last time. So it runs the gambit of everything, and I think why our sport's just so wonderful here.
I'm glad you mentioned that, like doing the charities and other events as well, because a lot of people don't really know what the supporters do. They just go to a game, they see that they're loud and proud over in that section behind the goal, and they don't take the time to see what the supporter groups are really about, and that is behind the scenes kind of. And I guess that's kind of on us to go out there and bring in those other people to join us and find that out. But man, it's amazing what y'all doing over there, and I don't dislike y'all. Y'all are one of the teams that I do like. We have someone real close to us that we really don't like over here. Of course, the state's big enough, so you go whichever direction you want. We don't like those, man. But
Yeah,
let's get into your season, man. So last night, y'all had a man. So like I said, the hangover continues. Even though y'all really just kind of kicked Atlanta's butt, Atlanta grinded down and defended well, and just kind of the keeper Guzman
Guzan,
just
like we got Guzan, if we're honest.
Jesus Christ, bro. He nothing was getting past him. Friggin' amazing, bro. Amazing. But so, going on that game and your season, tell us about how the season's going this far. I know you only have one loss. You have a lot of games in hand because CCL, now CCC, not really got in the way, but had to make y'all move some games. So I'm still going to say y'all the best team in the West. I kind of was picking Seattle early to kind of upset y'all, but that's falling out of the window, man. But, tell us about, your season thus far. How's it going?
Yeah, we all saw what happened with CCL last year and how Seattle came through it, and we also kind of saw how Seattle collapsed and missed the playoffs for the first time. And so, you know, with this, we look at all the kind of general narratives, which are based on the collective experiences of the teams. And typically, when a team wins a final, especially a double, they tend to have a very, very tough following season. When you throw in CCL, the number of games that we've had already this season, not to mention we're, many games behind, games in hand here, which we're now going through a stretch where we'll see you twice, which is 6 games in 17 days. That's our current stretch. And we've already had 3 stretches of 5 games within 15 days this season already. And so it's one of those things in MLS salary cap rules, which Coach Trundle and, to their credit, many other people around the league talk about now, about how the roster restrictions get very tough for teams when they start having a lot of games. We did the calculation before the season started, and we saw a possibility that LAFC could play as many as 56 games this season if they went deep in every competition, which, it's typical MLS season is 34 games. So that's adding a lot of games. And we all know our season is a huge grind. So going into that, we kind of, much like last year where we had Trundle as a new coach, and we're like, we really don't know what to expect here. He could come in and do very bad. He's untested. A lot of fans wanted more proven coaches, which front up like Mohamed El Turco was one, which thank God we didn't get him and kept with Trundle. But we kind of go into the season, the pragmatic fans do, that say, okay, typically after a season like this, the next season is going to look like this. And we find ourselves in a position still where we're very much contending for the top of the West. If it wasn't for Cincinnati running away with the East, we could be looking, at being up on the supporter shield up at the very top. But, so how they've managed to steer the ship to get us to here is really good. Some of us also wonder whether the grind was so much that the wheels kind of fell off about 3 weeks ago, and all of this games back to back to back, and injuries started piling up and having trouble. But with every good team, it's next man up, so you can't use it as an excuse. It is what it is. So to be where we are right now, I think we're pretty happy with. Although our run of form over 4 games, which the Open Cup where we played the kids in a derby against a team that brought their first team, could arguably get thrown out of the results. But if you take that along, we've had 4 games where we have largely, underperformed, excluding that. You can't really take that. We were really proud of our kids for that game.
Speaking of the kids, I think Foxtrot actually had a follow-up question that included the kids.
No, yeah, and pretty much just the fact that LAFC did that. They ever since I've seen games in the Open Cup and obviously the last one against the Galaxy, they pretty much just trust their kids and they just pull all the cards despite being a elimination game, and pretty much despite that, I've noticed, especially since I also watch MLS Next Pro closely because of Dynamo 2. LAFC 2 in the standings wise, they're not in a pretty good position, and I was pretty much wondering if you happen to know if there's a specific reason why they're having a lot of poor results, even though they pretty much I know for a fact they have a lot of talent, and I've seen it with in a Dynamo 2 game. But I just find it interesting that they find themselves in that position, although they some of those kids get called to the first team now and then, and obviously that game against in the Open Cup.
You're referring kind of to the results in the MLS, the Next Pro standings with LAFC?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's very much because before we had MLS Next Pro, we had the Las Vegas Lights, which, I don't know if you're familiar, but basically they were a USL team that basically went bankrupt, and we needed a second division team. So LAFC stepped in and basically not really bailed it out, but started funding the operations, and we sent a bunch of guys there. So our Next Pro is kind of just are guys that we kept from the Vegas Lights, which is most of the team, and then younger kids coming up, and brought them over to that. And the way that we treated the Las Vegas Lights team, as I said before, it was coached by Steve Cherundolo, and they had all of 4 wins before. I don't think they really look at that tournament as something they necessarily care if they win or not. It's about the kids playing better, the kids executing concepts and ideas. And I think at the end of the day, the score, it's really just an intense practice session for them. And getting to the first team is really what matters, because if we look at LAFC2 as an example, they basically, that squad played Monterey Bay FC in the Open Cup the round before, which we know, full USL team, great team. And that was the first win of the season for those kids. They had played, I think, 4 MLS Next Pro matches, didn't win a single one of them, and then actually played against the USL team, which, if Next Pro is technically a 3rd division, is a 2nd division team. Played an excellent game, beat them in penalty kicks at the end, and moved on. So for me, I think looking at the way we treat the Next Pro is much like we treat the Vegas Lights. The wins and loss is very irrelevant because the whole point is the first team, and this is just a means to the first team.
Well, with y'all playing this 60-game schedule, how often are y'all using y'all's Next Pro team? Because right now we're barely using our Next Pro team for the first team, but at the same time, we're still trying to figure out things here in Houston. But has that been helping y'all make it through these games every 3 days is what the average is feeling like right now?
It's really the only game that they've done it so far. Coach Cherundolo has really stressed that his philosophy is the best 11 that available is going to play. If they played 3 days before, if they've played 8 games within 20 days, the best 11 he can put out there is what he's going to put out there. Now, how much of that is hyperbole and how much of that is reality? That's kind of a whole other thing. But so far, when we have rotated, we've just rotated like 3 or 4 pieces. And, we do have some up and coming younger guys that we've imported aside from the Next Pro team, such as Stipe Biuk, Bogush is another one. We do have some kind of hot, like around 20-year-old prospects that we're trying to develop.
All right. So now going back to the first team, and you said you're doing this rotation. Is Vela becoming one of those rotated players? Because I kind of see he starts, then he's coming off the bench, and then y'all are allowing him to take penalty kicks anymore. Is he going to continue to do that as well?
Oh, this is the hot topic in the LAFC Twitter sphere right now. Basically the conversation, and I'll try to just do it. I think I can do it pretty pragmatically without choosing sides. Is that the question, at least the way I see it, comes down to MLS roster rules. A team is allowed 3 DPs. Those DPs have to hit if your team is going to contend. And in our case, we've been fortunate. Mostly credit to the coaching staff is that we've only had 2 DPs for a while. We still have an open DP slot, although the way the roster is constructed, it pretty much needs to be a young DP or a designated player that's under the max TAM rule, which is a $1.6 million a year salary, basically. So the DP has to fit into that to utilize the U22 initiative. So as far as Vela is concerned, Vela's our captain. Vela will have a statue outside the Bank of California or the BMO Stadium. He will have a statue. So that has to be in consideration. I think the argument right now is Vela living up to his DP contract this season? And I think it's a valid argument in a vacuum. But if you look at, Vela that's been with us for 5 years, he's been the league MVP, he's been the captain, the heart and soul of the team, and led us to the double last season, there's no way that we're going to cut him. But his contract does run out at the end of the year, and then we have a 1-year club extension. So at the end of the season, the Carlos Vela question, I think, is going to be ironed out. There's not much of a need to debate whether he should play in the team now or not, because we're not going to replace him with anybody near him. As far as the penalty kick question, this is one, as far as the team in the locker room, we have a very good locker room, a very good culture, and they are a very selfless culture. There was a couple weeks ago where Bouanga won a penalty kick, and he gave it to Bogush, our new Polish player who had been trying to get a goal and hadn't. And he won the penalty himself. He's in the Golden Boot race, and he handed it to the 20-year-old kid who just got here, who's having trouble scoring. And Bogusz put it in. Last night what we had was, they got the penalty. Vela went to take it. And it's Vela's call. He wears a captain armband, and I think the team goes with it. The next penalty kick, if Vela decides he wants to take the penalty again, I think the team's going to let him, and the team probably should. Now, would Bouanga have buried that penalty kick last night, especially the second one, which there was a whole exchange where after he missed the first, Bouanga motioned like he would like to take the second kick, the re-kick after he came off the goalie came off the line. Yeah. Vela declined him, said, I'm going to take the kick. He takes the kick, He's the captain. It's his prerogative. So I think if Vela takes another kick, it's because Vela wants to take the kick. If Vela doesn't take a kick, it's because Vela decides he wants to give it to somebody else. I think that's how it's going to go.
Until he misses another one. No.
Yeah. My money is on that he is going to hand the ball off to Bouanga next time. I mean, this is just my personal guess, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll see it in Houston.
Definitely, if Vela himself goes and watches the replay, the announcers were talking about him. Oh, he slow walk up and then takes the penalty, and it allows Guzan to do his whatever. And then they were talking about it in between. All right, he's got to make a different approach. He just needs to go for it. He needs to quit thinking, just kick it. And then he does it again, and then a mile over the friggin' goal. So he thunk himself out of making that one.
Yeah.
But,
it was frustrating.
But you brought up Bouanga, and I see he's in the MVP race, and it's going to be kind of hard to beat Mokhtar the way he's playing right now with the assists on the side. They both got 10 goals. So maybe it's a Golden Boot MVP race. Do you see him playing as well as he's been playing the entire year? Is this just going to taper off?
I think he's going to continue on what he's doing. I mean, Bouanga is just
a beast.
He's a really solid player, and like a lot of those really like Mukhtar. Like, is Mukhtar going to fall off this season? Like, it would kind of be shocking if he did. And Bouanga's in kind of the same boat. Even when teams try to isolate Bouanga because they know he's the threat and they'll double team him or even triple team him at times, he still finds a way to be dangerous, and he scores them every single way. And when you have a guy that's prolific like that, it's very hard to completely stop him. You can slow him down at the best. And for our team, we do need our other forwards to step up to take some of this pressure off of him because we can't be Bouanga FC either.
Well, I guess you're coming into Houston, and then we're going back out to LAFC back-to-back, a Saturday and a Tuesday game. And if y'all are dropping bombs like y'all were last night against Atlanta, we're going to have a long couple of games with us. Now, thankfully, at home, we play very well, and we've only lost to Seattle 1-0 at home, and we've only given up 2 goals all season at home, but we've been very inconsistent when it comes to offense and defense being on the same page together. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how we play y'all here and then play y'all friggin' on the road in LA. But it's going to be interesting because LA's not going to change their game, correct? They're just going to come out and they're just going to continue to bring it and just shot after shot after shot or do y'all have a difference of how y'all play at home and away for those who don't really pay attention to opposing teams?
No, not really. I think the way that we really describe how we play now. Well, I mean, to go back up, when we played with Bob Bradley played Bob Bradley ball, and that's Bob Bradley ball was just high press, possession, attack. Like whether home or away, he would. Trundle's a little more pragmatic, and I think a lot of it is based on his experience in Germany, where they're renowned to be a little better tactically. Although, as Tillman said leading up to it, not as tactically as I think they want to make it look like, especially in particular with Leon. But whatever. The way Cherundolo kind of looks at it is he tends to make in-game adjustments pretty quickly. Usually within the first 15 to 20 minutes, he'll make his first adjustments, and I think a lot of times LAFC have been under pressure, but then he makes these small tweaks, whether it's having Ilie Sanchez move into different space when they're trying to repossess the ball, whether, just he starts tweaking how the press is forming, because kind of what he's really into is the counter press. When we turn the ball over, immediately getting the ball back and going in transition. Otherwise, he'll play a little more of a counterattacking style. Whereas, Bob was a relentless high press. There is times where Trundle will shift into a mid block, not really a low block, but they will kind of switch up what they're doing based on how the game is going. So that's kind of what I'll expect to see again with Houston, is that the beginning of the game, they're going to feel it out, and then they're going to start to make some adjustments, try to put their stamp on it. By the second half, they'll make subs to further it, and then we've been a great second half team, and that a lot of it is the way we play, and he's very pragmatic and very tactical.
Go ahead, Fox.
And one of the things that I've been impressed by Cherundolo is the fact that Bob Bradley moves to Toronto, and it's like the polar opposite, like in Toronto right now, and it kind of goes back to what you mentioned about Las Vegas Lights and how he managed that team and how pretty much applied it to the first team now. Like, it's just incredible, like the operation at this point, and that expectation that has been set to pretty much aim to the top of MLS and contend for the cup every single year. So it's just interesting to see how they still have the standard, like in the few years that they still have, like in the league, and it's just incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. If there's one weakness that we're starting to see a bit, though, it's those high pressure knockout elimination games that sometimes we really struggle with, and part of it, I think, is they get so pragmatic that they just want to play every game like every game. But when you get to a derby or you get to like a final, the pragmatism kind of goes out the window, and it comes down to how you manage your intensity, and with the whole style it is, like, managing the intensity is kind of something I think that we lose, and it's something we've lost, whether it's like, in the derbies, which we're notoriously underperform against a very poor Carson team right now, which, sorry, I don't call them by their regular names, but or whether it was the Leon final where, we just saw our team just not show up, so if there is a weakness to him, it's that. But this weakness doesn't ever seem to show itself in league play. In league play, we just kind of grind right through it.
You said you don't call them by their names. So we got FC Frisco to the north, and we got Fraudston to our west right there. So those are little nicknames for our.
I thought they were the Broccolis.
Yeah, they are the Broccolis. They are broccoli. And when we've already played them home twice this year. And one of those we actually went and got a broccoli pinata and beat the crap out of it before the game. and then it was fitting that we beat them 2-0 in that game, and then beat them again at home. But so. I don't know how much of a benefit this will be this weekend, but our coach has been suspended because accumulation of yellow card for the coaching staff, which is kind of crazy that the coaching staff has already accumulated that many. But I think we've had VAR go for us and against us in almost every single friggin' game so far. And I think everybody knows how everybody has their feelings about pro refs. And it's this VAR is getting so inconsistent and crazy, bro.
Yeah,
You mean like last night? Last night we should have had 3 penalties. I mean, some of the handball, we were like, couldn't believe some of the no calls, and we couldn't believe some things were reviewed. But that's soccer, like, there's no point in crying over any of that. But it does suck.
No, that's what you got to teach your teams. Yeah. If you're going to lose the game, you're going to beat yourself. The ref's not going to beat you, and your opponent's not going to beat you. You're going to beat yourself. That's how you go down.
Yep. So one of the things – no, I was going to say, so for the games coming up, one of the things I do want to mention on our side, because with this weekend, I have a feeling you're pretty much going to be playing our first team, whoever's ready to go, even possibly even Chiellini's going to be there. I'm not sure. He's starting to get out there. We'll see how he feels, but I have a feeling Chiellini might play against you guys. But when it comes to next week, we have international break starting. And so when it comes to our midweek game, you guys might be playing our entire kids team that day. We're going Kwadwo Opoku just got his first call up to Ghana, so he's going to be gone. Jose Cifuentes, international duty, gone. Rumors he's getting transferred to the Rangers, so he may even be. This may be his last game in Houston with us, or he might not even play. Not sure. Palacios, international duty. Aaron Long, injured, was big gash on his head. Acosta, international duty. Palencia, injured, broken leg, I believe. He's going to be gone for 10 weeks for us. And Timothy Tillman, injured. Dennis Bouanga, going to Gabon, international duty. Oh, Daniil Maldonado, our CB4 that played last time, Honduras, just got called up to Honduras. So we're basically missing 7 of our starters on this game. So whether they're going to, you're going to be seeing a very heavily rotated LAFC next midweek game.
You're giving us hope, man. You're giving us hope. We're already hopeful at home because of the way we've been playing at home, and we've now deemed it Hell in the Shell. So welcome to Hell in the Shell this weekend. And then Tuesday, I think Foxtrot, I don't know if we know of anybody that's being called up right now. Maybe Coco Carrasquilla, Hector Herrera was not called up. I don't know if we're going to be missing anybody.
Herrera's having a great season this year.
Loving it. So we
really impressed.
Yeah. I mostly just think that it's going to be like a lot of some of the bench players are going to be rotated for the game next week. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the stars are going to be featured this weekend. But yeah, we'll see. A lot of the Ben Olsen stuff that he applies, like it doesn't really matter, like what we think. Like like one day we kind of guessed it right. The other day it's like the opposite. So we'll see. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, I think our starting 3 for that game is probably going to be Bogusz, Biuk, and Vela, and that's kind of going to be our. I'm not sure what they're going to do with a lot of the rest of the team, but yeah, we're going to see a lot of our MLS Next kids, which they're not a bad group of kids, honestly. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have beaten Carson in that U.S. Open Cup. They're inexperienced. They let in those 2 quick goals, and that's just when you're a young kid, you're not ready. You're not up to this level. Like you have those lapses where 2 goals go in 5 minutes. It's the difference between second division players and first division players.
And we've already seen LAFC twice this year with our DOS team, and we got penalty kicks in the first one, and then we went to LAFC last week and beat y'all 2-0. So we've already seen some of y'all players. So it'll be interesting to see what else happens. So with this coming, and we got this back-to-back, we'll call it this aggregate, the winner take all. Realistically, now granted, we know y'all are the top team in the West right now. What are y'all expecting here in Houston? And then when we come back to LA to play y'all, you wanting 6 points. What are y'all realistically expecting?
No, I think as a fan base, we're expecting 6 points because, we have these games in hand, which are pretty much getting spent now, and it is a grind. It's going to be very tough I think it's harder on the players to live up to the expectations that we have as fans. But we've been looking at the table. We've been, sitting 3rd place in the West with at 1.5 games in hand, I think, or 4 games in hand on Seattle in first. And we want to see that ground made up, and we want to see us pass them by. So I think we expect 6. I think 6 is doable, but I think it's going to be a really steep hill to climb. Also, more than any of it is we just want to see kind of this slide because we're now winless in 4 games, and we don't want to go winless in 5 games or winless in 6 games, or the narrative is going to start to be about, is LAFC the best team in the league, which I think was crazy to even say. Like, a team missing a DP shouldn't be the best team in the league. Like, that's pathetic if it's true. It's just well organized. But to go from like the greatest team in history to do we have a huge problem here? All in the span of like a month.
Man. All right. One little follow. Who's the next Bell that's coming to LAFC now that Messi's over in Miami? I know y'all going to have to counter.
You're gonna one up it, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's not gonna be a one up. Just
yeah, technically right now.
Honestly, I don't see a Messi-like player, or or an Ibrahimovic, or Higuain, although he failed here. But I just don't see that kind of player in the DNA of the club that our front office is building. I think what we really emphasize are our young up and coming players, whether it was Diego Rossi, Edward Atuesta. The really good players of our club are guys that basically were like kind of looked over by Europe, but we saw something in to develop, and we're chasing, like, we want to get the 4-star recruits from South America. And now with Trundle, we're starting to look in Eastern Europe, Croatia and Poland. We're starting to look for guys there. Who do we bring as our DP was a 29-year-old Carlos Vela. So I think looking for another guy like that who's in his prime. I know a lot of guys say, hey, we want Griezmann in another year. He's a hot name with us. But, by the time he gets here, he's going to be 34 or so. And, is he the guy that's going to go the next 3-4 years with us? So I think we really want to find that superstar that's still in his prime. One of those guys that's like, he doesn't really have to go to MLS yet. Like a guy like that is who we're looking for. I think like finding a 34, 35-year-old, top 20 in the world player, it's just not really our thing. The Gareth Bale was a matter of convenience, that he really just wanted to warm up for the World Cup, which was the biggest thing for him. I think he was pretty much done with his professional career at that point. Well, it should be obvious by now with his, he wants to be a golfer now.
Yeah.
So he's done with soccer. So he kind of came here just to like warm up, because it was Wales' first World Cup in like 60 years, and it was a matter of national pride and kind of giving back to his home.
And then he pulls that
For sure.
that MLS Cup, probably the best MLS Cup in friggin' history. And then you put him in with the last 20 minutes of the game, and he does what he does, and friggin' just amazing.
We can never be mad at that guy.
No, you can't.
May he golf to his little heart's desire.
He deserves it, right? He deserves it. He deserves it.
He does. Yeah, go hit them links, buddy.
Yep.
Foxtrot, any final questions you have for Eric and LAFC?
Honestly, I feel like I learned more about LAFC today, and yeah, like I've had like all these thoughts about LAFC. I don't watch them as often on TV as much as I used to. Mostly as a casual fan, just checking league games. But I do know for a fact that LAFC is just one of those teams, and there's still like a long season ahead of us, and obviously for LAFC, they're coming out of a CONCACAF Champions League with all those games in hand, and with not just like MLS coming up, but also Leagues Cup and pretty much what's ahead for them. I feel like they're gonna be one of those exciting teams, even though like they kind of have like that little Champions League cloud over them right now. They're still pretty good, and they're gonna be a threat still.
Yeah. I do think that, for our team and finishing this season, we do need to have a solid transfer window in the summer. And I think we definitely are in need of one or two starting 11 level guys. We'll see what the front office has up their sleeve, but so far they've been pretty good. And what for you guys, do both of these games feel more winnable than they did before you talked to me?
I was just thinking, as Foxtrot I feel better now after talking to you. Now, first one's at home, and that's why I feel good, is because we're home, we're competitive at home, and I think we could compete with y'all. Now it's gonna be hard. Every shot y'all friggin' take is either on target or misses the goal by this much. I've never seen shot so close to the friggin' target. But then you tell me you might have a suicide squad on Tuesday per se. Gives me a little bit hope, even though we've been horrible on the road, unless you play Open Cup on the road, and then we haven't won an MLS game on the road this season. So yes, I do feel better. Yeah. Will I be surprised if we don't get a win or a draw out in this? Not really, but let's play the game and let's see what happens, right?
Yeah. No, that's fair. I do think our locker room, another thing that Trundle says is our team, every team doesn't like to lose, but, you kind of see the results on the field. And he says that the boys in the locker room cannot stand to lose. So after this slide, and especially after Atlanta, they're going to have a huge chip on their shoulder. So I definitely think that the intensity is going to be there. So, it should be a great match in Houston, and, hopefully everybody goes out and enjoys a beautiful game of soccer.
And for us, I don't know how this will as we start to wrap up, as the style we've been playing is defensively, we're gonna pressure the middle of the field, do that mid block like you were talking about, and nothing's gonna occur in the middle of the field. We're gonna make a defensive mistake or miss our frigging mark. We've been doing very well when we're attacking. We've been using a cam as of recently, who we did not start with the beginning of the season, and Amin Bassi. He's been roaming that middle of the field, and we've been starting to play a little more forward and getting that ball and getting those big chances. And is that something that could take advantage of y'all, or do y'all defend well against a type of attack like that?
We, we're counter pressers. So I think the way to play LAFC, honestly, especially right now, is a mid block, low block. Because when we get our goals, it's on transitions and it's on numbers. And we don't really have a true number 9. Like we have interchangeable wings that some are better than others. Sometimes it's Opoku in the middle, sometimes it's Vela in the middle, sometimes it's Buanga. But none of those guys are hold up number 9s. And so if we have to start holding the ball into like, a solid defense, 8 guys in the box, like we really have trouble doing anything but moving it back and forth around the perimeter. So I think really like Cherundolo, I think, prefers to lose the possession game. The games that we score more points are the games that we have less possession. And it's really because they want to force turnovers in bad situations and exploit it. So if you give us the ball by playing in a mid or a low block, I think you really take away a lot of the biggest threats that we have.
Well, good. I mean, that's hopeful as well. But the boys got to perform and they've got to execute the game. And like I said, we'll have an assistant coach coaching us this game, which shouldn't change the tactics or the game plan or anything like that. It may change game, like in-play game tactics, since Ben Olsen's not going to be there to make those changes, but the coaching staff knows what they're doing. So it's going to be very interesting to see these 2 games and see how we compete against y'all. And if we can come out and get, let's say a point at home, and maybe even find out and try to get a point on the road too, Houston fans are going to be very happy because, like I said, we've been sitting in the bottom of the cellar for a while. We've got the new owner that came in a year and a half ago, and we're trying to make our changes and improve our situation and get us back into the realms of MLS talk. And we're still inkling in there. So going to be a very interesting 2 games. But Eric, any other final questions you might have for us or remarks? Otherwise, man, please tell us about the Black and Gold podcast. I'm going to be interested to listen to y'all's after these 2 games or 2 episodes in between the 2 games, and tell us where we can find that, man.
Yeah. Our podcast is called The Voices of the Black and Gold. You can find it on YouTube. Just look for Voices of the Black and Gold, or on Twitter, Voices of Black and Gold, or VOBG podcast. And that's where you can find us. We just kind of started as a group of fans who were fed up with how it was going under Bob Bradley, and just we kind of formed a community, and that community developed into a show. And it's been a great time, and it's been a pretty successful podcast so far. We're all kind of surprised with how successful it's gotten.
Well, shout out to you,
Nice.
man, for, like you said, you're a transition from football to soccer, and you've known soccer for 5 years, even though you've played it in your youth. So it seems like you had a lot of learning and a lot of growing to do. And talking to you here, it seems like you know what you're doing, know what you're talking about, man. So shout out to you for picking it up and taking it to where you're going. And we wish y'all nothing but luck until the whistle blows, and then after that,
Same. Thank you so much, you guys.
But Foxtrot, what do we do here? I always like to throw the H's up and say Forever Orange as we head on out. And we'll see y'all next time, guys. Stay noodle.
Oh, one more thing, you
man,
guys.
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I love Buc-ee's. We drove through Texas a while ago, and we stopped by a Buc-ee's. Man, Buc-ee's is awesome.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
It's a cultural staple at this point, because like it's inevitable. You're gonna stop there, but you're gonna love it.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. I was like, this is Disneyland crossed with a gas station, crossed with a theme park. This is crazy.
Probably the first time you drove up to it, man. It was like,
yeah.
What the heck is this place?
We were on a road trip, and we were staying with my wife has family in Indiana, and we were heading. They knew we were heading to Houston to see another friend of hers, and they're like, "You got to stop at this place, Buc-ee's," and we're like, "Buc-ee's, okay, cool." And we drove like the line from the freeway was like a half mile, like to the freeway exit to get there, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, anyway. This should probably get edited out, but
nah, it's
staying.
staying in there.
All right.
Buc-ee's, and Buc-ee's knows Texas is not rock. Because as when we went to FC Frisco, North Oklahoma, South Oklahoma, whatever they are, we stopped at Buc-ee's ourselves when the supporters were on their way up in the bus, and Buc-ee was there, bro. So Buc-ee came out, and the supporters got out. We started playing our songs and chanting, and he got in there with them, and it was just a friggin' blast. So Buc-ee's he's claiming Dynamo right now.
Yeah.
But
hey, sponsorship, Buc-ee's. Hey, sponsor these guys right here. Look at all this.
Yes, please. I beg you.
Yes, sir. But Eric, once again, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. I look forward to listening to y'all's podcast after these two games, and just to hear what y'all feel about it. And good luck the rest of the season, as we like to tell all of our opponents until we play y'all again. Hopefully there will be an again, but we'll see. We're still working on that part of it. But H is up, forever orange, and stay new, guys.
Yes, sir.